best-selling author and host.
The #1 health and wellness podcast.
On Purpose with Jay Shetty.
Why is getting better important? Like, why is growth important? And I know it may sound like a stupid question. It may sound like a silly thing to talk about, especially on a show like this. But I find that people I talk to sometimes idolize being average. They think it's good enough. Good enough is good. I find that we are wired often to want things to stay exactly the same. We like how they are. Why should we get better? Why should anything get better? We should be satisfied with what we have. And often in the guise of contentment and peace, there's a sense of lethargy and complacency that, well, we don't need to grow because you're just being greedy. So I'm presenting a spectrum of ideas there. I'm happy for you to dive into any of those. But why does getting better and improving matter at all?
This is fascinating. Nobody's ever asked me that before. And frankly, I think I've taken for granted that growth is just intrinsically enjoyable and motivating. I mean, I think you made a case that maybe some people are not motivated by growth. I think that where I might push back on that is to say we live in a world that glorifies performance. So, people feel like if they want to be respected or celebrated, they need to win a medal, they need to earn a trophy, they need to get an A+. And I think what we've lost sight of is that what people actually enjoy is a sense of progress, feeling like they have forward momentum. When I think about what does it look like to not grow, I don't think for most people that's good enough. I think that's stagnation. I think that's people saying, I'm stuck. I feel like my life isn't going anywhere. I feel like I'm squandering my potential. And I think that's a travesty. And so I think growth is part of how you feel like you're using your time well.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. And I'm glad no one's ever asked you that before, because I think I'm like that too. I kind of take for granted that I love growth and I love the idea of being better and improving. And I can't remember, it's been said a million times. It's like an age-old quote, but it goes, if you're not growing, you're dying. And I think that's the point, that we are either moving forward or we're moving backward. We're either getting faster and smarter, or we're getting slower and not smarter. And I think when you recognize that idea that there is no staying the same, there is no, we're just going to stay on this place and platform forever, you start recognizing, I have to move forward. And the pace at which I move, how have you guided people with that? I find like often we compare our pace of growth and our pace of becoming better. And that's the hardest one, because you're like, well, they got that body in 3 months, or, you've been the top rated professor for 7 years. Like, I've only won that once, or whatever it may be. Pace of growth. How have you thought about pace of growth in your work?
For a long time, I believed the saying, the mantra that comparison is the thief of joy. I don't believe it anymore. I think envy is the thief of joy. I think social comparison is invaluable. I think we have to look to other people for inspiration. I think we look to other people for learning, not just what am I capable of, but also how do I get there? I think where we run into problems is when we stop admiring those people and we start wanting what they have, or feeling like I should have gotten what they got. And I think what's probably helpful is to make a different set of comparisons. Part of what you could do is not think so much about pace as maybe focus more on starting points. So maybe somebody who's growing faster than you actually just started with more advantages than you did, and you've traveled a greater distance. I don't think we pay enough attention to that, would be one thought. I think obviously comparing to ourselves is helpful too. And I think that, so often when it comes to benchmarking progress, I want to tell people, okay, the person you're competing with is your past self, and the bar you're raising is for your future self. And if you can focus on that, it's a little bit easier to realize, all right, yeah, everybody has a different starting point. Everybody has a different pace. But if I could tell, actually, let me say this. I think so many people let their expectations rise with their progress. And so you set a goal today, you achieve it in 6 months, and then by the time it happens,